Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast, where industry leaders share their insights. It's about 5 questions in hopefully less than 9 minutes because hackers never sleep. Let's get to it. Question number one, Tim, great to have you on. Who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Tim Armstrong. I am what's called a sales engineer, or sometimes called a solutions engineer. So we're basically we help the sales team from a technical perspective in everything from demoing the product, answering questions about the product, sort of qualifying the audience so that we know we're talking to the right people, and then testing the product and getting all the sort of value out of the different features so that if somebody can get some value out of our product, they've given it a fair shake on the way to that decision.
Tim, do you want to share who you work for and what they do?
Yeah, sure. I work for SecurityScorecard. We're a risk ratings platform, really the leader in this space. And what we do is we scan the entire internet, and we're able to look at the outside of an organization and give them a really simple letter grade on the sort of health and hygiene behind their external cybersecurity. And really the benefit is you can take and look at other companies in there. So with the rise of the importance of managing your vendors and their cybersecurity health and how it might affect you, we've really become a pretty important part of that whole relationship.
No, that's a great product, and so I appreciate you jumping in on that one. So let's jump to the next question. What's the cool part about being a cyber expert?
The cool part, I mean, cyber expert's a big term, but I would say, I know what I know within the little niches that I know. And I would say probably the most beneficial thing in this is that you always have a problem to solve. Both fortunately and unfortunately, we're never going to be out of work. And when you can make an impact on something, you feel like you're actually maybe, as much as a lot of people say, maybe you're making the world a little bit better place.
I like it. Always looking out for the world. I have to laugh. You're not the first one to say, the cyber expert is a big term. What
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this extra question there. What does that mean to you? What does that even look like?
I mean, I don't think anybody can be a cyber expert because there's way too much to know. So you can be an expert in, this much space. And so, for me, it's been learning about malware, learning a little bit about incident response, and now doing all the stuff with risk ratings. But there, anybody that says they're an expert across all of cyber, I don't know. I don't know that I fully trust them.
That's fair. I use the term purposely just to kind of see what people come towards. It's a great interaction point. So thank you for that.
Definitely.
Let's jump in, especially seeing how you are really helping the world with, that scorecard, that risk assessment piece of it. And we know that cybersecurity is a top concern. It's in every newspaper. It's on every news article I've seen every day.
Yeah.
What does cybersecurity as a top concern mean to you and your clients and the people that you know?
I mean, like I was mentioning, the biggest thing I see is that everybody is either in the midst of or just beginning to build a really good vendor cybersecurity program. Of course, there are some early adopters that have led the pack, but by and large, people are underfunded, overwhelmed, and trying to deal with this in such a manual way. And really the need for something to make this relationship easier and make it, kind of press an easy button on all of this is probably the biggest thing I see on the day-to-day is like, how do I do this? And how can we help?
So what piece of insight do you want to share with our community?
Tier your vendors. I mean, that's the number one thing that people have so many vendors they don't know. People use this for acquisitions and benchmarking and other stuff as well as looking at themselves. But the main thing is people just don't know what they don't know at this point, I think. So the biggest piece of advice I would say is, within the sort of space of cybersecurity that I occupy right now, figuring out who those people are, who the people you care about most are, is the number one first step. And from there, if nothing else, you can make some impact, and then hopefully you can mature that entire process over time. But at this point, I see it pretty constantly that people just don't know everybody that has their data or access to their building, or, so starting there and just figuring out who the critical people are that already have the keys to your house, and then how you're going to manage your relationship with them, I think is the number one thing.
Perfect. I mean, that's good cyber hygiene right there. So
Yeah, I mean, that's a big phrase too, because, what does that even mean? Depends on the place.
it's true. It's very true. I think if you asked MITRE versus the cyber kill chain versus every company out there, they'd have a different answer. Do you have an answer for it?
I mean, within the sort of tiny little space that we've talked about, yeah.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, what's your favorite piece of retro technology that makes you smile?
Man, honestly, it's not really a computer thing. It's old synthesizers, like from the 80s and stuff, because it's just this like block of technology with knobs and buttons all over it that, you can just sort of poke at and make a lot of noises. You probably see I'm a amateur musician here. And so that kind of stuff. I would say within computers specifically, it's probably the Commodore 64, because that's where my grandfather had one with a little tape drive that you'd plug in, and you'd have to offload the programs onto the memory. And that's really where I fell in love with computers, and they've always been a part of my life since then. So yeah, probably that.
Perfect. Tim, thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast.
Really a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, you did it. You made it to the end. Thank you so much. Check out more Cyber Pro podcast.